Well, good evening, everybody out there in internet land. Hi, how you doing? And otherwise, howdy. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome back for another session of Chattin on the Porch, the over the hump version. It is Wednesday night, May the 1st. Yes, for all you communists out there around the world, it's May Day. And we truly hope that you enjoy living inside of a failed ideology that celebrates whatever the hell it is you celebrate on May 1st every year. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We are here to gather together and talk about items in the news, and we're always glad that you're able to join us. We got a nice little crowd settling in on Rumble. We got folks settling in on YouTube. We got folks viewing us on Twitter. We are here in the Continental 48 and all around the world. We've got people watching from everywhere across the globe. You never know who's going to drop in on the Electronic Front Porch. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, a getter, a gab, a Truth Social, a Facebook post, wherever you are on social media. Tell your friends to get in here and join you. We'll have some fun reading some items in the news, talking about what it all means, giving our opinions, and otherwise looking at each other and saying, it's going to be okay. We shall survive this. Anywho, glad to see y'all here, and nice little, like I said, there's a nice group that's already forming up. Good evening. Happy birthday, by the way. I would sing you happy birthday, but that would be a threat to your sanity, and I don't really want to do that to you on your birthday. I mean, after all, if I start singing, the moon will go dark, rivers will turn to blood, dogs and cats start habitating together, it's mass hysteria. But regardless of that, happy birthday, and we hope you are enjoying it. So let's see. We've got TBA, WWG1. They're all over on Rumble. So there you go. There you go. Glad you guys are here. We're going to give it, I'll kind of stretch things out, let people kind of filter their way into the room. Glad y'all are able to make it. And got a lot to talk about tonight. So looking forward to all of that. There's news that's encouraging. There's news that's discouraging. There's everything in between. And if nothing else, we'll try to figure out what it all means and laugh about it if possible. And we'll definitely give our opinions about the whole thing. So we're glad you're all here. I do want to start out by thanking Gypsy. She sent me something last night. I believe it was from Gypsy. Let me make sure about this. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, it was Gypsy. It was Gypsy. She sent me something last night that's kind of encouraging to the heart. There's been a lot that's been made of the protests that are going on all around the country. And understandably so. I mean, it's a very discouraging time. But sometimes there are images that come out of it that kind of really give you some hope. Down at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, there were some fraternity brothers who stood up for their country. And I got to show you this because I'm not going to lie. This was one of those images that kind of, made the heart feel good. Some frat brothers are being pelted by anti-Israeli protesters at UNC Chapel Hill while protecting the United States flag as it's rehoisted following its removal by protesters. Well done, gentlemen. I want to put this up here and let y'all take a real good look at it. Those are kids that are probably, probably anywhere from 17 to 22, maybe, somewhere in there. And yeah. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot that can be said about the state of higher education in America, and none of it would really be good, but it's moments like that that make you realize there are some shards of hope out there. Not the entire darkness is not, it's really, it gives you some reason to smile. And over on Rumble, apparently I'm causing a controversy already. WWG1 says, what are you trying to do to me? When you were on only 1 day a week, it was manageable. Now I have to watch you 3 days? LOL. Just kidding. I love you, brother. Oh, give me a break, WWG1. Come on. Now, well, let me kind of explain what I'm doing here, or at least what we're doing this evening. And I tell you what, more and more, I'm really getting comfortable with the idea of doing more live streams through the week, and I think I'm finally figuring out a way how to make this work, at least for me. The reason that we're doing a Wednesday night stream, in part, is because of my guest tomorrow night. And since that we're already on that topic, I'll go ahead and do a really quick commercial. Just as a reminder, please remember Dr. Robin McCutcheon is going to stop by the Electronic Front Porch tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern for a conversation about economics and all things, policy-wise that have to do with money. So if you haven't done it yet, tell your friends. I'll have the link for the live stream up shortly after we're done tonight. But Robin McCutcheon's stopping by 7 p.m. on Thursday evening, May 2nd. So please mark it on your calendars. Tell your friends. Give them the link to the channel. And let's see if we can, get a nice big crowd in here for Dr. M, as I'm sure that, don't get me wrong, she probably enjoys the pleasure of my company, but would love to hear from a lot of y'all. So anyway, so just remember. Now, that said, so up to now, I've sort of been doing these live streams at least 2 days a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. When I thought about it, I was like, well, we're having Dr. McCutcheon on Thursday night, and while the conversation will be valuable and everything we talk about is going to be interesting and important and, fun, I'm thinking, well, kind of there's stuff still going on out there that needs to be conversated about. Yes, that is the technical term for it, conversated. And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't we just slip in a Wednesday night stream and just see how it goes? Well, then I took it one step further because I've been kicking around the idea of changing the time a little bit. And I know it's not that big a difference in one sense, going from 7 to 7:30, but it's a little easier on me because I get out of work at a certain hour. I get home. It gives me some more time to prep and, not, run around like a chicken with my head cut off. So I'm more or less jonesing on the idea of 7:30 going forward. And I think this is going to work out better for me and hopefully better for y'all, and makes for a better quality product. So we will see how all that goes. But there are some items in the news. And another reason why I want to do a stream tonight, because there's stuff that happened that we talked about yesterday that has follow-up items that go along with it. And one of them is part of what's happening at Columbia. I want to show you guys some images. And this one comes from City College in New York. And this is really encouraging to the soul. I want you guys to see this. This runs about a minute. And then we'll get into our first story of the night having to do with Columbia. But folks, do me a favor and check this out. There's not going to be any audio with this, but that's the Palestinian flag. And it's being napped. They just ripped it down. And that's Central University, New York officials, and they're putting back up the American flag. And I don't know about you guys, but this is encouraging to the heart. It really is. Like I say, there's no audio that goes with this. It's just images. But yeah, this is, for me anyway, this is good for the soul. There's stuff that's still happening in the country. There are people still willing to fight for the country. I guess that's probably maybe one of my biggest reasons why I wanted to show you guys this. In an age of darkness, sometimes when you find those, moments of light, you need to share them as much as possible. So, yeah, definitely I want to let you guys see that. And that leads to our first story of the night. And we were talking yesterday evening about what's going on at Columbia. Oh, really? No, I have not seen that yet. Zippy, if you find that, would you if you happen to find that real quick, would you tag me in a tweet and I'll throw it up? I'll be glad to throw it up here because I'd love to see it. But yeah, if you can find it, just tag me in a tweet or shoot it to me in a DM on Twitter and I'll throw it up there. So, but gets to our first story of the night. We were talking about yesterday what's happening on the campus of Columbia. Well, apparently Columbia University, and more particularly the government of New York City, have had enough. And our first story comes from Breitbart. New York Police Department raids encampment at Columbia University. Article written by Elizabeth Wiebel. We had the following. The NYPD reportedly began a raid on Columbia University hours after the university restricted access to its campus. Video footage posted on Twitter showed NYPD officers in riot gear walking through the streets as protesters could be heard chanting, "Free, free Palestine," and "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." And we've got a little bit of the imagery on that, so let me pull that up real fast and I'll show it to you guys. This runs about 1:18, so I'll play the whole thing. But do me a favor, folks. We'll get back to the article here in a second, but do me a favor and check this out.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea.
And don't hear this. They're bringing more barricades. Tell me where you want me to move. No. Tell me where you want me to move. Well, anyway, I just...
So yeah, there you go. Like I say, apparently they had the NYPD and the mayor's office and everybody had a belly full of it. And definitely they started making some moves. And hang on a second, because Ruben just sent me something here real quick. And so did Zippy. I'll put them both up here in 1 second. Hang on, folks. Let me see what I got here. Okay, hang on.
So what kind of food are you asking for?
Why do I have... Oh, okay. Zippy, this may be what you're talking about. If it is, shoot, tell me in chat. But I'm going to put this up here. But let me tell you, these protesters, these college students, they are a hard-bitten bunch. And if you don't believe me, check this out.
So what kind of food are you asking for?
Okay, basically we would like to get some pepperoni pizzas, just make sure they are gluten-free, or you know what, just...
Sounds like you just want pizza with no bread. Is that what you're saying?
Just send some pizzas without bread, okay? Oh, and also, no cheese. Many of us are allergic to cheese, and while you're at it, please make sure there is no tomato sauce. It looks like blood, and we don't want to trigger anybody. So just send us some plant-based pepperoni in a box, and if they don't have vegan pepperoni, just send us some pizza boxes with napkins and shit. Just make sure the pizza box is made with recycled cardboard.
And if they don't have any recycled pizza boxes?
If not, just don't send us anything. We'll just go back home to mommy. Thank you.
Oh my God. That's great. Zippy, Ruben, I gotta thank both of you guys because that is absolutely hysterical. Oh my God. That's great. That is absolutely great. Oh my goodness. I have got, I may not have the biggest audience in the internet, but by George, I've got the best audience on the internet. Oh my word, that's funny. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. That's great. That's just great. Oh my word. That is just too funny. Well, anyway, let's get back to that article from Breitbart, and we'll get into some further discussions about this. Oh yeah, I agree with that completely. Like, yeah, I mean, let me tell you, that hard-bitten spirit of the 1960 student protesters at Berkeley and other places around the country. Yeah. It's there, baby. It's passed on from generation to generation to generation. And I'm glad to see that college students in America are carrying on a fine tradition. Oh, God. All right, let's get back to that article from Breitbart. Columbia University informed students to shelter in place hours after the university restricted access to its campus in the aftermath of the anti-Israel protesters seizing control of Hamilton Hall, an academic building, in the early hours of Tuesday morning. Video footage shows NYPD officers in riot gear getting ready to enter the hall. Several protesters were seen being dragged out of Hamilton Hall. Columbia University announced that students who were occupying Hamilton Hall were facing expulsion. Prior to the takeover of Hamilton Hall, anti-Israel protesters were given a 2 p.m. deadline on Monday of which to leave the encampment. Okay. All right. So there you go. They are apparently, well, let me be careful about how I want to say this. Apparently, there are adults in New York City. Tragically, I'm not so sure it's in the university's administration. So, got to play some commentary, and I'll give credit. This, guys, this is one of those moments where I will give Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, credit. I've got to do it. I mean, you know, this guy actually took the bull by the horns and he's getting this situation under control. He appeared on CBS this morning, and he was asked some questions about the raid at Columbia University. So I want to put this up here, and I want to let you guys hear this. Remember something that we talked about last night? And it was a question that I posed, and I think y'all are saying the same thing. How do we know that these protests that are popping up on these college campuses around the country are not being organized by individuals who are not students at that particular school? And I've been wondering this for a while. Well, Mayor Adams is ready to weigh in on this, and this is really interesting. So do me a favor and listen to this.
Well, there were two operations tonight. One was with CUNY and one was with Columbia University. And once I became aware of the outside agitators who were part of this operation, as Columbia mentioned in their letter and their request with the New York City Police Department, it was clear we had to take appropriate actions. When our intelligence division identified those who were professionals, well-trained, one of them was married to someone that was arrested for terrorism. We knew these children were being exploited and they were in danger. And
okay, now hold on here. He used a word, and I don't like it because to me, these are not children. These are young adults. They might be young, but they're still adults, Mayor Adams. No offense, but calling them kids, to me, and I get you're using a colloquial phrase. I get it, but they're not kids. These are individuals who are fully responsible and fully cognizant of what they're doing. Okay, sorry. Just had to inject that little point. Anyway, let's get back to the comments.
Would have been irresponsible not to reply to requests from Columbia University.
Mr. Mayor, when you say that the protests have been co-opted by professional outside agitators, how do you distinguish between those outside agitators and students who are just protesting peacefully? And who is this individual who is connected to a terrorist?
All right, now listen to the answer that Adams gives.
Well, and it's not singular, it's plural, several organizations and groups. I want to be clear on that. We did not take this action lightly. And once the Columbia University team and leadership in their letter acknowledging that outside agitators were on their campus grounds, we looked at our intel and information. I was briefed by the intelligence division, and they were able to identify organizations and individuals who were not students, but were professional agitators. And we realized after the breaking into Hamilton Hall, some of the tactics, some of the methods, these are clearly being used across the globe. And we understood that how really dangerous this situation had become.
Now, you know, I've had my various criticisms of Eric Adams in his mayorship of New York City. But as I was listening to that, I was reminded of something about him, and that is he is a former NYPD officer, okay? And, you know, the fact that he's picking up on some of this information that the intelligence arms of the New York City Police Department are passing along to him is like, okay, this is not organic. These kids are, and I use the word, geez, these young people are being stirred up deliberately. And, you know, like I say, I get, and you know what? And I apologize to officials at Columbia University because apparently from the way that Adams is describing it, they reached out to the mayor and the police department and said, guys, we need help here. We cannot get this under control on our own. You guys have got to help us out. So, credit to both sides, to the administration of Columbia and to the mayor's office and to the NYPD. And thankfully, from everything I have heard, no officers were injured in this, which, and thankfully no students were injured or killed or anything like that. Thank God. So, yeah, I'm very glad to see that some measure of order is being restored. Over on Rumble, WWG1, pedagogy versus androgyny. The first one deals with children. The second one deals with adults. WWG wants to stop calling those who can go to war children. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree completely. Yeah, they're definitely not kids. They're definitely not children. So TBA says we should have called in the National Guard. Well, maybe we should have, but fortunately they were able to avoid it without that. Good evening, Professor. The inestimable Christian Watson is in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. And do me a favor, if you are not subscribed to his channel on YouTube, do yourself a favor. One of the smartest commentators out there, and genuinely a good dude. Absolutely one of those fellows that you definitely ought to be paying attention to. Oh, by the way, Christian, and I'm sure you've seen this as you are a Buckley fan, but I've seen it advertised on Facebook, and I no doubt by now you've probably watched it several times. But if you haven't, PBS is running a documentary on William F. Buckley Jr. I didn't know if you'd heard about it yet or not, but I know that you are an absolute Buckley fan, so I thought I'd pass it on to you since I saw you here. But let's see. I will name the organizations organizing this: National Branch for the Students of Justice in Palestine, Democratic Socialists of America, the Divest from Death Coalition, and quite a few more. Oh yeah, this is not organic. You're watching it. You're watching the documentary tonight. Oh, good. You got to. Hey, message me on Twitter a little bit later. I need to schedule the time to get you back on here because I want to talk about what's going on these college campuses, and I've been meaning to reach out to you, but I'm not saying I've forgotten to do it. I just keep getting distracted. But shoot me a message if I don't get to you first, and let's figure out a time we can get you back on here because this definitely is worthy of a conversation. I want to definitely have you back on. And good evening to you, good sir. Good evening. Yeah, absolutely. Shoot me a message. My concern is the term professional agitators will be used in government overreach and suppress. Now that's possible. That is possible. Oh, I think we're headed for 1968 all over again. I really do. And I think it's going to be worse. I mean, I wasn't alive. My sister was, well, I'm not going to say how old she was, but she was a girl, a teenage girl at the time this stuff was going on. And I'll never forget the conversation I had with her. We were watching a documentary one time. It was on CBS, actually, talking about the year 1968. And it had just gone to a commercial break. And it was myself, my mom, and my sister. And I looked over at my sister and I said, 68 is crazy as they're saying. She's like, Brian, we thought the world was coming to an end. And, and that was before we had all kinds of levels of crazy that we've got right now. So, let's see. Hello, Miss Up in Connecticut. Celia Farber had friends undercover last night in NYC. She says the whole thing is a giant op. Yeah, ain't no doubt about that. Hello, Dave. How you doing, brother? We're going to get to that. That is on my list of to-dos for the night. Again, proof that my audience is the best audience on the internet. So, So yeah, we're gonna get to O'Keefe. Don't you worry about that. We will get to it. We will definitely do that. So yeah, so it looks like some measure of order is being restored at Columbia. That's the good news. Bad news is this thing is still continuing to metastasize across the country, and before we get to that, hang on. New York's favorite congresswoman apparently is upset with His Honor the Mayor. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has an opinion about what happened last night at Columbia, and she's not been afraid to share it. So here we go. Check this out. AOC criticizes Mayor Eric Adams, Columbia University, for NYPD raid. Article by Elizabeth Wiebel. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat of New York, slammed Democrat New York City Mayor Eric Adams and the presidents of Columbia University. Ocasio-Cortez responded to a post on Twitter which referred to remarks made by Adams during a press conference earlier in which he said the protest at Columbia had been, quote, co-opted by professional outside agitators, end of quote. Quote, if any kid is hurt tonight, responsibility will fall on the mayor and the university presidents, Ocasio-Cortez wrote. Other leaders and schools have found a safe de-escalatory path. This is the opposite of leadership and endangers public safety. Ocasio added that it was a nightmare in the making. I urged the mayor to reverse course. Now, okay, all right, that's it. That's it. I can't do it anymore. I've got to talk. No, I'm not letting that pass. Forget it. Forget it. Alexandria, I have a question for you. They had started out as an encampment on the Commons at Columbia. They'd been there for pretty much longer than a week. They had taken over the administration building that is known as Hamilton Hall. They had occupied it. Just how far would you have wanted to let this go before you said, okay, it's probably time to start reining this thing in? Personally, as far as I'm concerned, the thing went too far to begin with, especially when it was starting to be discovered that there were outside professional protesters who were whipping these kids up into a frenzy and agitating the whole thing. So, my question for the good congresswoman from the Bronx is just how far would you have let this go before you finally put your foot down on it? Or that sort of even begs a better question. Would you have even bothered to put your foot down on it? Or would you, or if you, or let me ask you another question, Alexandria. If you had found out that there were professional protesters who were organizing this thing and whipping this thing into a frenzy, would you have even done anything about them? Leave the students out of it, okay? Let's just leave the students out. When you found out that professional protesters were involved in this thing, would you have even done anything about them? Look, I can understand in one sense the fine line that the university's administration is walking here, okay? All right. If there's any one place in America that ought to be about free speech, it ought to be a college campus. I don't disagree with that notion in theory, but there comes a point when it stops being about free speech and you're violating, at a minimum, campus rules and policies, or you're out and out violating laws of the local municipality or the state or the federal government. Okay. Columbia had realized, hey, we've lost control of this thing. We've got to reach out and get some help. They reached out to the mayor and the NYPD and they said, look, you got to help us put this thing down. They're starting to occupy our administration buildings. Now, I'm not saying that Columbia University's administration is faultless in this whole thing, and I'm not trying to stand up for them, but even they had reached the point where they're like, look, guys, we have got to get a handle on this thing. WWG1 says, when you block entrances and exit, that goes beyond free speech. Yeah, I think last night was the turning point when the protesters started restricting access to campus. That's crossing the line. That is absolutely crossing the line. TBA says AOC is really a streetwalker. Ho is a common name given to. Well, now hang on now. She is in Congress. If we are going to talk about Alexandria's side hustles, would it not be more dignified, given that she is a member of the Congress, to refer to her as a lady of the evening, as opposed to calling her just a hoe. I mean, we are all about trying to keep it classy here on the Electronic Front Porch. And, a lady of the evening might be a little more dignified for her, but I'll leave that up to you guys to try to figure out. We'll see what you guys think. So yes, she's upset with the mayor that the mayor was actually willing to do something about this. And here's another question I have. What did you expect the mayor to do? Columbia's university, the administration reaches out to him and says, we need help. What's he going to do? Ignore it? If it had come out after the fact that he had turned down the request for help, he'd have been crucified. Even by people, regardless of which side of the issue you would have been on. He's under enough pressure as it is, mostly of his own making, by the way. But if he'd have turned down an offer to help out on what was going on in Columbia, he would have been roasted alive in the court of public opinion. Just saying. So, Alexandria, what did you expect was going to happen here? Got to play you funny. And I think you will appreciate this. There was some video of students who were inside one of the buildings. You've got to see this. This is hysterical. Do me a favor and check this out.
They just barricaded us in.
Oh my fucking god.
You're laughing.
No fucking way.
I can't say
Fuck you. It's finals. Can I go home?
Did you hear all of that? Oh my gosh. These student protesters, I tell you what, they are just tough as can be. They barricaded us in. Oh my fucking god. No fucking way. Fuck you. It's finals. Can I go home? Oh my god. Can I go home? I'm scared. Here's the scary part for men of my age. Some of these people are going to be the ones taking care of me at the assisted living center. I am terrified. If this is what they're made of in their early 20s, man, I don't want these people taking care of me at the old folks' home. Forget it. No. Absolutely not. WWG1 says, I'd like to see them react on a mission in Vietnam. Exactly. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. Hang on. Where did I just see it? Yeah, I think it was TBA who's actually doing me a small favor over there. Says, hey, hit that thumbs up, people. And absolutely, before we go to our next story, do me a favor. If you haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up on Rumble, hit the thumbs up on YouTube. And now it's time for my little commercial. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Chattin on the Porch. We are on YouTube. We are on Rumble. We are on Twitter. Thank all of you all for being here tonight. Zippy and Z Highness and the birthday girl. Oh, do not forget. Wish M169 a happy birthday. She turned 25 today. So, it's very important that we wish this young 25-year-old young lady a very happy birthday. I offered and or threatened to sing happy birthday to her, but, realizing the societal tumult that would cause, I decided, well, maybe we better not. So anyway, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Love and happiness on the Electronic Front Porch. There you go. So yes, we're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We are on Twitter. So send out your tweets, your getters, your gabs, your truth socials, your Facebook posts. Send out that link. Absolutely threatened WWG. Yeah, well, see, you have to understand the quality of my singing. Most people would say that I would be spreading joy. For me to offer to sing to someone is more like a threat. because frankly, I have the potential to bust out your eardrums and cause bleeding, down the side of your face. You don't want that if I sing. Do not want that if I sing. Okay, let us shift gears ever so slightly. There are other things going on in the world, and before we get to them, and Ruben just sent me another one. Okay, we'll get to that here too, because that'll go under other campus news. So Ruben, I saw it. Don't worry, brother. We'll get to it. I found tonight a video that is definitely worth watching, I think. Give me 1 second here, folks. Hang on a minute. I got to find where this baby
than the one it currently
up. Hang on a minute. I had this thing set up just the way I wanted it. Yeah, here it is. Okay. A lot of us, I think a lot of people too, a lot of people have been asking the question, talking about, the whole thing that is the heart of this conflict, what's going on in the Gaza Strip between Hamas and Israel. A lot of people have been asking the question, well, look, why is it that other nations surrounding Gaza do not offer to take the Palestinians in? I mean, because we could sit here all night and talk about the origins of this conflict, okay? And Lord knows there are many. There are theological origins, there are historical origins, there's every other kind of origin. But if you get right down to it, what this is about is a dispute over land. Okay. Now, some people have thought of, various compromises to try and diffuse the tension. And one of them is, well, look, you've got millions of people in this very tiny strip of land. Why don't nations like Egypt or Lebanon or Jordan or Kuwait or Iraq or even the Saudis, I mean, you got all that land all around them. How come they don't take in the Palestinians? Now, I found something, and some of the historical facts that are referenced here, I have not independently verified on my own. I will admit that up front. But if what is being reported in this video is correct, it goes a long way to explain why the Palestinians are pariahs inside the Arab world. And I want to play this for you because this is really, really good information. And again, I will tell you up front, I have not independently verified, these facts as presented, but I just want to show this to you, get you guys' take on it, because I think this is extremely informative. So this runs about 3.5 minutes. I'm not going to interrupt this. I'm not going to. I mean, I hope I'm not getting ready to set myself up for people, just like, oh God, I'm bored. This is not a boring video. This is 3.5 minutes of really solid information. So let me tee this up. And folks, do me a favor and check this out.
To refuse to accept Palestinian refugees because it allows them to then blame Israel for any sort of humanitarian crisis that unfolds. But the thing is, historically, many Arab nations have accepted Palestinian refugees, and that may be why Egypt doesn't want to now. For example, in 1991, the Kuwaiti government actually expelled nearly 300,000 Palestinians in the aftermath of the First Gulf War, and this represented an astonishing 18% of Kuwait's entire population. So what was the reason? Well, the Palestinian Liberation Organization had actually supported Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait a year earlier. And this support only grew after Iraq began attacking Israel with rockets throughout the war. After Kuwait's liberation, the government considered much of the Palestinian community to be complicit in the Iraqi occupation of their country. And in response, nearly all Palestinians were deported in just a few months. And this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Decades earlier, the Palestinian groups operating in Jordan had come to openly call for the overthrow of Jordan's monarchy in the aftermath of the Six-Day War. At the time, the PLO maintained its own separate army on Jordanian soil and used that armed force to sow chaos. Armed gangs of PLO militants drove around the capital of Amman, robbing families and businesses in the name of collecting financial assistance for the ongoing war of attrition against Israel. When members of the Jordanian police and army tried to defend their citizens from these attacks, they were attacked and killed. The Palestinian political network operated as a state within a state, with militants repeatedly using Jordan to launch rockets into Israel. The Marxist-Leninist Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine even went so far as to hijack multiple planes, diverting the flights to a Palestinian-controlled airfield in Jordan, where the passengers were held hostage. By September 1970, the Jordanian army had finally had enough. A full-scale war with the PLO broke out, and after 10 months of fighting, the Palestinians were driven out of the country. Yet, as a parting gift, a Palestinian terrorist group known as Black September assassinated the Jordanian prime minister. Sadly, the story doesn't end there, because the PLO then moved into Lebanon, where they allied themselves with Marxist and socialist movements that were seeking to overthrow Lebanon's conservative Maronite Christian government. The presence of thousands of Palestinian militants flooding into the country completely destabilized Lebanon and plunged the entire nation into chaos. Less than 4 years after the PLO was expelled from Jordan, Lebanon found itself in the middle of one of the most bloody and chaotic civil wars in Middle Eastern history, from which it has never fully recovered. In short, Palestinian organizations have not just attacked Israel. They have sowed unrest in many of the neighboring Arab and Muslim countries as well, and this has led those governments to the conclusion that allowing for mass immigration or even just refugee camp resettlement within their borders would lead to domestic unrest for their own countries. And this, of course, only exacerbates the humanitarian crisis for those Palestinian non-combatants caught in the middle. The problem is, as long as terrorist organizations like Hamas and others are elected to represent the Palestinian people, their plight will most likely continue, as neither Israel nor apparently the surrounding Arab nations want to see their own populations threatened by terrorist groups.
Now, let's talk about this. Again, and I would have to go back and start, looking up some of the stuff for myself. But my memories, when he starts talking about some of this in my memory, yeah, some of this is sounding real familiar, and it starts making a lot of sense. I mean, when this thing started back in October, what's going on currently between Hamas and Israel, I kept thinking, well, the Egyptians are right there. Why can't they just, open up the border and be the pressure release valve? No. People in that part of the world might be many things, but one thing is for sure, they've got a really long memory. And keep in mind, some of the stuff that he's talking about goes back to the early 70s. They're not going to forget. They know what the Palestinians have done over the years. They tried to overthrow King Hussein of Jordan. They launched Lebanon into a civil war that, I remember that one. You remember our Marines that were killed in the barracks in Beirut? That was during the middle of all that. It is when you start thinking about it in those terms, it starts making a lot of sense why it is that the Palestinians only have a tiny little strip of land on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea after all these decades. Yeah, and that's a great point. We think in 3 to 5 years. The Eastern mind thinks in terms, I don't disagree with that at all. The cultural memory of the people of that part of the world, their sense of history, they don't ever forget. Now, that can be good or bad, but on stuff like this, they never forget. The Egyptians, the Jordanians, the government in Lebanon, Kuwait, Iraq, the Saudis. It's no wonder they're not offering to take the Palestinians in. They remember what's happened over the past 50 or 60 years. Why would we bother to bring people inside of our own borders who are going to, I mean, when the PLO, if the PLO is engaging in a war against the government of Jordan to the point that the Jordanians kicked them out, when Kuwait threw them out in 91, yeah, it starts to make a lot of sense. An absolute, a lot of sense. You know, unbelievable. But yeah, I found that, and I want to throw it out. Matter of fact, let me do something real quick for the benefit of both audiences on YouTube and Rumble. I'm going to post this link. If you guys want to watch this on your own, give me 1 second here, because this is really good information. You know, if you want to share this around with friends or whatever, feel free, you know. But yeah, I definitely want to get this out here, let you guys see it and hear it, and get you guys' take on it. There we go. All right, both sides have got it. And now to other college campuses around the country, let us travel. Apparently, things at Columbia are winding down, and they tried to wind up at Fordham, which is also a university in New York City. Check this out. Headline from Breitbart: anti-Israeli encampment established at Fordham University hours after police raided the others. Again, that intrepid reporter, Elizabeth Wiebel. An anti-Israel encampment was established at Fordham University in New York City on Wednesday, hours after similar ones at other universities were raided. Tents were seen set up inside a building on the university's campus as part of a Gaza Solidarity encampment. Officers from the NYPD dressed in riot gear began a raid on anti-Israel encampments at Columbia and the City University of New York City late Tuesday evening. The raids came after anti-Israel protesters at Columbia had seized control of Hamilton Hall in the early hours of Tuesday morning and smashed the glass doors of the building, carried barriers inside, and hung pro-Palestinian banners from the windows. Well, that was yesterday evening. Well, now there are some updates to that story. And let me show you what it looked like yesterday. You know, there have been criticisms made for decades going back to the 1950s and the 1960s about university professors. And, you know, this is one of those subjects I really can't wait to get into with Dr. McCutcheon tomorrow night. But I'm going to show you something, and this is allegedly taken at Fordham University, and everybody is saying, "Oh, the students, the students, the students." Well, it may not be just the students. I'm going to run this. This runs about 1:08. These are students and faculty members. The faculty is egging this on, so check this out. This was today at around 5:30 Eastern. Now, that, like I said, that was around 5:30 this evening. Well, much like at Columbia, this didn't last very long because around, let me find it here. Hang on just a second. Let me find out when this was posted. Give me 1 second here. Now, I'm almost sure I know this, but yeah, around about an hour and 15 minutes later, this started to get broken up. So give me 1 second here, folks. The police officers of the NYPD deserve a lot of credit on this one. Folks, do me a favor, and just to let you know, sanity is slowly, well, let me rephrase that. Order is slowly being restored on these college campuses. So do me a favor and check this out. Now, keep in mind, this encampment at Fordham is inside the buildings. The cops are on the outside. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. And I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you in the slightest. I don't blame you at all. WWG1 over on Rumble says, reminds me of 68, smells like it too, I bet. TBA says, NYPD should have arrested the faculty, or Fordham should fire the professors for failure to uphold policy. You know, we talked about this the other night, and back in the 1960s, when this kind of thing was going on the campuses out in California, when Ronald Reagan was governor, he was writing to university and college presidents saying, look, guys, you need to put in some kind of code of conduct on the faculty, and uphold some standards here. You're letting this stuff metastasize. Different set of circumstances, different set of issues, but same thing was going on. So, yeah, I mean, TBA, I don't necessarily disagree with you on this. Also follows up and says, these professors are like the grandchildren of the 60s flower children. They're pansies. Yep. And WWG1 follows up, notice all this crap seems to happen just before presidential election. Oh, it's not going unnoticed. You guys have been talking about it. I've been saying it. A lot of other people have been saying it. This is the summer of love 2.0, and it's just about to get started. All the college administrations are commies too. Most of them. Most publicly funded universities. Let me rephrase that. There are some points of light out there in academia where they're mostly conservative, but they're not state-funded universities, or in some cases privately secular funded universities. I'm thinking particularly of, private Christian colleges, private Christian universities. Hillsdale College is a wonderful example of a secular conservative campus. But yeah, it is absolutely amazing what's going on. Absolutely amazing. Well, I was wondering when this question was going to get asked, and it's finally happened. You remember back in the 2020 campaign when it was brought up that Donald Trump was getting such grief from Joe Biden about the good people on both sides comment? The Charlottesville incident, and Trump's comments were taken out of context. When he made the statement, well, there are good people on both sides. Joe Biden in particular kept repeating that lie for as far as that horse would carry him. Hell, he's still trying to repeat it as far as that's concerned. But remember how all that came up and just Biden beat Trump over the head with in the media? Well, not even so much. No, I take that back. Mostly Biden, even the press. I remember Jake Tapper of CNN pointing out, hey, man, this is not what Trump said. But Biden wouldn't let it go. Well, now the press is starting to come back around on Biden. I want to play you a snippet from the daily press briefing at the White House, an exchange between a reporter, I don't know who it was, and Karine Jean-Claude Pierre, the White House press secretary. So the reporter asks, you mentioned the president has taken questions on this. With all due respect, he hasn't. I can't believe this reporter had that kind of temerity. He did ask a question where he did take a question, excuse me. The reporter says he did take a question where he said he condemns those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. I know you've been asked about this, talking to Jean-Pierre, and the reporter says, but since you brought up Charlottesville, what do you say to those critics who say he is trying to have it both ways, that he's essentially trying to walk or talk about both anti-Semitism and what's going on with the Palestinians? Well, here is the response from the White House propagandist Jean-Pierre.
I would say to those critics is no, he's not doing a both sides scenario here. When you think about Charlottesville, you think about the vile anti-Semitism that we heard on the streets of Charlottesville, right here in Virginia, right, not far from here. The president and many of us wanted to make sure that was called out. Somebody died. A young woman lost her life. And when the president saw that, it put him in a situation, or he believed it was the right thing to speak against that. He wrote an op-ed that was in the Atlantic because about that. He decided to run because of what he saw in Charlottesville.
No, honey, let's tell the truth here. Your boss decided to run. He wanted to do it anyway. And what happened in Charlottesville gave him more or less the excuse, particularly when he saw that initially the press was piling on Donald Trump. Okay. But I'm sorry, to the bigger point about the question, your boss is trying to have it both ways. And that's part of his problem. I mean, we played a clip last night from Mark Penn, the pollster who does the Harvard-Harris poll, the most recent one that came out that showed Trump has a lead nationwide over Joe Biden, in spite of everything else. And the one thing that Mark Penn, who is a very experienced pollster, by the way, he goes back to the days of Bill Clinton. He actually polled for him. Mark Penn made the statement that the biggest thing that's driving Biden's numbers down right now is what's going on between Israel and Hamas and how Biden is perceived to be handling it. I mean, Blinken, Jake Sullivan, people in the State Department, the National Security Council, they are desperately trying to get some kind of peace deal done between the Israelis and Hamas. Well, I'm going to say something extremely cynical, but nonetheless true. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, and they're not doing it for humanitarian reasons. They know that if they don't get this issue off the front page of the newspapers or off the front page of websites somewhere between now and November, it will cripple Joe Biden in places like Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York State, and other places around this country that have very large Arab American populations and Palestinian populations. They know this. That is why, look, I don't care what Anthony Blinken says. This is about election year politics. They've got to get this issue off the table, and they know it. But she's wrong. He is trying to walk a line. He is trying to have it both ways. On the one hand, he says Israel's our ally and we got to support them. On the other hand, he's going around saying, hey, you guys you can't conduct the war this way and you can't conduct it that way and you can't do this and you can't do that. And on it goes. And I don't see Joe Biden making a statement about what's going on these college campuses. Do you? I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me. But if anybody's seeing it, I'm not. So one more before we totally get off this subject about what's going on college campuses. My good buddy Reuben Christopher Haynes sent this to me. And Reuben, if you're out there, hat tip to you, brother. He sent this to me a little bit earlier. And it's an update about what's going on around the country. This is a scene from Dallas, Texas. And let me tell you something. Texas law enforcement is not putting up with any of this nonsense. Do me a favor and check this out.
How you feel, officer? What's scared of education? You're a big man now, huh?
Anyway, you get the idea. Don't mess with Texas. Well, here's a good example of why. There you go. There you go. So anyway, that's an update about what's going on in the academic world. It is, bottom of the hour. Time for a commercial. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I would genuinely appreciate it. We've got folks on YouTube. We got folks on Rumble. We got folks on Twitter. And I believe it was Dave who asked me the question, had I seen or heard about James O'Keefe's latest missive that he has dropped? Well, I have. And let me give you guys a little bit of background on this one if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. James O'Keefe, the head of O'Keefe Media Group, or OMG, which is a great anachronism, by the way, had been teasing for maybe about 2 weeks that he had gotten a hold of something that would be probably the biggest, most explosive video that any organization that he'd been affiliated with would drop, whether it was Project Veritas or O'Keefe Media Group. Well, he dropped it this afternoon. And when this one finally starts making its way around social media and the regular media and everything else, this one's going to be explosive. And I'm not just saying that to hype it. I'm really not. This video runs about 27 minutes. As a matter of fact, let me do something right now for the benefit of you, my audience. I'm going to drop this in chat on both YouTube and Rumble, and you can watch this thing at your convenience. I mean, we're going to watch a snippet of it. We're going to watch maybe a minute or two of it, and believe me, it's going to be enough to get your blood going. So I really recommend share this with your friends, watch it yourself. Like I say, this one's going to absolutely send you straight up. So, an operative for the O'Keefe Media Group is talking with a gentleman named Amjad Anton Fasisi. At least that's my pronunciation of it, but I'm from West Virginia. What the heck do I know? And he would otherwise be a very informative and interesting person to have on video. It's who he works for that makes it even more fascinating. So I'm going to play this, or at least about a minute or so of it, just to give you guys a feel for what's going on here. And I think you're not going to be surprised, but I wouldn't be surprised if you were shocked. Folks, we're going to run about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes of it that we're going to play. Check this out.
I work in the intelligence community. I work in the CIA. I do cyber operations. I've been doing it for a long time.
So how long have you been working at the CIA?
Since 2008. I've also worked at MSA though. And then I have a TS-SCI with a full scope polygraph. And that means that I'm fully vetted.
Amjad Fasisi shows her his CIA identification badge.
No, where does it say?
Doesn't.
Hey, that's the point.
That's the point.
What's CMC?
China Mission Center, darling. China Mission Center.
Gotcha.
Amjad talks about how the CIA kept information from Trump.
Like working?
We kept information from him.
Say one more time.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He's an idiot. There are certain people that would sort of give him a high-level overview, but never give him any details. Do you know why? It's called leak those details.
Amjad Fasisi states higher-ups within the intel community, including CIA directors Mike Pompeo and Gina Haspel, and the upper levels of their staffs colluded to withhold information from sitting President Trump.
So the agencies kind of like all got together and said, we're not going to tell Trump.
The higher-ups.
The higher-ups.
We put it this way, the executive staff, we're talking about the director and his subordinates.
Like, what titles are they? They're
Director of the CIA.
director of the CIA will keep.
Yes.
Are you guys still watching him?
I would say yes.
It sounds like you guys are still watching him and his team.
Of course we are. Nothing goes by without somebody watching.
Amjad Fasisi also states as fact that Trump is under constant surveillance and even claims they are spying on his ex-wife.
And we also have people that monitor his ex-wife.
So you guys had human sources.
How do you think we get information?
Like wiretapping? Is that what?
Steal it.
How did you guys figure out that Trump was colluding with the Russians? Did you guys use...
It's human intelligence.
So the intel community was able to use FISA to spy on Trump and his team. And that's how we found out that he was colluding with the Russians. Was it the CIA or the NSA that spied on Trump?
So it should be all of them.
Now, am I shocked by what he's telling me? No, not necessarily. Am I even surprised by the information? No, not necessarily. What does shock me, and I see that I see that hand out there, praise the Lord. What shocks me and surprises me is the fact that this guy is spilling his guts. Why, you ask? To impress a young lady. I mean, I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I'm going to tell you guys that up front. But if this thing is as explosive as I think it is, oh my gosh. WWG1 says, I love the flood of information that's finally coming out. Oh, absolutely. Zippy over on Rumble says, man, I am going nuts. 3 different chats, caffeine, and a chocolate high. I'm out. Oh, bless your heart. Yeah, go unwind. Good grief. I love you, but heavens to Murgatroyd. Yeah, don't, you know. Oh, Dave says, I've watched it all. It's worth. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll check this out. I will check this out. Like I say, it's 27 minutes long, and just you're gonna if Dave Dave, I believe everything you're saying. So don't. If this thing is as explosive as I think it is, all hell is about to break loose. I don't know that the mainstream media is going to cover, but let me tell you something. Breitbart, Fox, Newsmax, Right Side Media, this is going to get out into the ether. This is going to have impact. And if it gets out with any impact in regular media to one degree or another, all those independents out there that really are kind of on the fence about who they ought to vote for, this might start swinging some people. But yeah, have I heard the new song about Hunter getting hot? No, I have not. Zippy, if you've got that, shoot it over to me. Either tag me on Twitter or drop it in my DM. TBA says, is anybody still watching the mainstream media? That's a great question. That is a great question. Oh, okay. Here's a tease for you guys. The end is the best because it's O'Keefe approaching him outside the restaurant. So part 2 will be. Oh, that's right. This probably is in 2 parts. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. So, a couple other 3 items to talk about, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. Marjorie Taylor Greene is back in the news. That firebrand out of Georgia, who is living proof of the adage "Don't put it in crazy." But that's a whole other subject. She is going to go ahead with the motion to try to remove Speaker Johnson. Have you guys heard about this yet? See, I didn't say anything about this last night because I was kind of wondering where she was going to go with this, but she's made up her mind. She's going to push it. Yesterday, it was reported the Democrats, particularly Hakeem Jeffries and other high-ranking Democrats in the House, were going to quash any effort to try to remove Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana. Well, apparently, MTG has had enough. From thehill.com, Greene unveils plan to force vote on Speaker Mike Johnson's ouster. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene announced Wednesday she'll act next week to force a vote on whether to oust Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, an extraordinarily move highlighting the internal turmoil in the GOP. But the effort is all but certain to fail after Democratic leaders said they would vote to protect the speaker from her coup attempt. It is not a coup, lady. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Oh, come on, Mike. Michael Schnell and Mike Lillis, you guys know better than this. She sent it through Discord. Okay, I'll check it out. Z Highness, I'll check it out shortly. Anyway, back to the article. Here we go. Greene introduced her motion to remove Johnson from power more than a month ago, but her latest move is a sharp escalation of that effort, compelling the House to consider the measure with 2 legislative days after she activates her motion next week. Greene has sharply criticized Johnson for cutting a number of deals with Democrats on critical legislation, including funding the government, approving billions of dollars in aid for Ukraine, and reauthorizing the U.S.'s warrantless surveillance powers. She accused Johnson of betraying his conservative roots and GOP voters more broadly, and warned that keeping him in power would discourage Republicans from going to the polls in November and ensure the Democrats will control the House next year. Quote, I voted for Mike Johnson because his voting record before he became Speaker was conservative. Once he became Speaker, he's become a man that none of us recognize, Greene said. We're not going to have a House majority if we keep Mike Johnson. Greene, flanked by Representative Thomas Massey, Republican Kentucky, another supporter of the vacate effort, acknowledged their effort is likely to fail on the floor, but they're pushing forward, they said, to get every House lawmaker on the record so voters know where they stand on Johnson's speakership performance. Quote, if this vote fails and the whole Congress supports the uniparty, let me tell you something, that is not a failure. It's a win for the American people because that's a list of names. Greene said they deserve that list. Okay, I want to talk about this for a minute. There are a significant number of people, including, according to reports, Trump's campaign, the current chairman of the RNC, Mike Whatley, who are begging, pleading, Marjorie Taylor Greene, don't do this. And I can understand their thinking, okay? But there comes a point, and let me also back up and say something else. I understand there are going to be moments when you, as a leader of a legislative body, are not going to be able to do everything you might want to do, and there are moments that you are going to have to compromise. I'm not disagreeing with the concept of compromise, okay? That's not my point here. But I don't think that MTG is necessarily wrong on this. There's a difference between being a legislator and a legislative leader. Again, I get that distinction. But the compromises that Mike Johnson is making are not compromises on numbers, assuming both sides agree with the principle. It's a compromise of principle. Mike Johnson said, I'm not going to allow a vote on Ukraine funding unless we secure the southern border. Well, he allowed a vote on Ukraine funding and didn't get a thing to secure the border. Now, you can say, believe me, the whole question about Ukraine has been argued left, right, sideways, up, and down. I get that. But you told your vote, Mike Johnson, you told your voters one thing, and you're doing another. You told everybody you were for fiscal restraint, for fiscal trying to roll back the spending, for stopping, the reckless Biden spending, as it's been called, and you gave Democrats everything they wanted. I have a question to ask, and this is not just for my audience who's watching this tonight, but it's for folks out there who are like, man, I wish she'd shut up. I wish she'd leave this alone. What's the difference between having Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson in the speakership? Answer, I don't know, because I can't tell the difference. I can't tell you what the difference is between Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Johnson. Oh, come on. Mike Johnson's socially conservative. No. Hold on. If that were the biggest set of issues going on right now, I'd agree with that argument. They're not the biggest set of issues going on right now. The biggest set of issues are spending, inflation, control of the southern border, immigration. Okay? Those are the biggest issues. And frankly, I think MTG is right. Do it. Yeah, she acknowledges, I'm going to lose this vote. We're not going to be able to remove him. But the benefit of it, and again, I don't disagree with her thinking on this, these congressmen, especially the Republicans, you're on the record for it. You voted to keep him in. So let your voters deal with you, assuming you still have a primary ahead of you. Or even this fall, let the voters in your district decide what they ought to do with you. And I'll tell you one more thing. And other pollsters have been touching on this. There is a lag right now between Trump's numbers, which are pretty good, all things considered, with 6 months to go, and a generic congressional Republican. They're running behind Democrats right now on the question of the generic ballot. Here's a thought that ought to scare everybody to death if you're a Donald Trump supporter. There's a very distinct possibility that Donald Trump could win the presidency, win the Electoral College, win the popular vote, and the Republicans lose control of the House of Representatives. And if that happens, you're setting Donald Trump up for an absolute disaster. Even if he gets back in, yeah, he'll still be able to do some things by, executive order, but as far as getting major pieces of legislation through the Congress, he won't be able to do it. And yes, what she is doing is chaos. I don't disagree with that. But at some point, there's got to be some kind of a reckoning as far as congressional Republicans are concerned. It's finally time we finally figure out what the heck do they believe in. What kind of hill are they willing to die on? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I mean, Mike Johnson says he'll do this, he'll do that. He hasn't done it yet. Well, I don't have enough of a majority. Hey, I've seen Nancy Pelosi push stuff through the House of Representatives with barely, and I mean barely enough numbers to get it done. And by George, she did it. So please don't give me this whole, well, we got a really small majority. No, what you've really got is a small set of balls. And the ones you've got, you definitely don't want to use them. So cut the crap, all you establishment Republicans up there on Capitol Hill. Don't give me this, and don't give the American people this. They deserve better. Especially from people who we elect to hopefully fight for our values. I am yet to see you guys really fight for much of anything, with the exception of a handful of people. Gates, Gosar, Biggs, Jordan to some extent. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, my future ex-wife. Yeah, with the exception of Nancy Mace, I'll throw her into that group, who might be the second future ex-wife after Lauren Boebert, by the way. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, Marjorie, go for it. Do it, honey. Do it. This is one of those moments. Do it. You know, absolutely. And WWG1, I saw your comment over there, your question. I don't have a mod on Rumble, but I am more than open to the idea of getting some because I think we're going to need it here in the near future. But yeah, this is where we are. So for my part, do it. Absolutely do it. One more story this evening. Then I'm gonna put a lid on it for the night. Donald Trump was in Wisconsin and Michigan this evening, and thought it'd be nice to kind of end it with some campaign clips. Thought you guys might enjoy this. At a rally in Wisconsin, Trump was talking about what's going on as far as inflation, and thought you guys might like to hear this. So check this one out.
These price hikes are continuing to drain nearly $1,000 from the typical Wisconsin family every single month. Does that sound like a lot? I think it's a lot. Chicken, I love chicken, is up 24%. Baby food is up 30%. Eggs are up 59%. Gasoline is up 50%, but it's going way higher. Airfares are up 33% without the service that we used to get. And the 30-year mortgage rate just hit 7.6%, one of the highest averages ever. Other than that, we're doing quite well. Do you agree? And the country's going to hell, but then we're doing quite well.
You gotta love Trump. All right, one more. And we're gonna skedaddle. This is from his appearance in Michigan. Runs about a little over a minute. We'll see what we got here. So do me a favor, check this one out.
You got the largest tax cuts in history. On day one, we will throw out Bidenomics and we will reinstate a thing called Maganomics.
Now, I got to tell you something, and I'm not just saying this because I'm supporting Trump. I like that. I like that idea, that term, Maganomics. And I'll tell you why. I hate the way the Democrats and liberals and leftists and progressives control language. Oh, MAGA is awful. MAGA is evil. MAGA is this. MAGA is that. Yeah. Well, it's not just catchy, but the thing that I like about it is if you're trying to give people a reason why they ought to, because to most independent voters who don't pay attention to politics, they hear MAGA and how much that phrase has been beat up. Like, ooh, MAGA. I don't want to be associated with that. Sounds like a disease. What have you got? Well, I've got MAGA. Oh my God. But my point is, turn it into a positive. I like what Trump is doing here. I mean, Biden, for the longest time, he's throwing out Bidenomics. Well, why not say Maganomics, which means lower gas prices, lower inflation, more money for you and me, lower interest rates to buy a house, easier time buying groceries. Yeah, I love the phrase. I think it's great. I really do. Hang on one second, folks. I got to do something here on behalf of Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, Z Highness sent me this, and I want to be completely and totally fair because I asked her to shoot this over to me. This will be our last item of the night. So hang on. Oh yeah.
Arby's made chicken.
Stop that.
Wraps 2 for $5.
Stop that. Hang on. I gotta let this thing roll through a commercial before I play it for everybody. But this Okay, I think we're just about there. And we will be here in a second. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I have heard about this. I'm going to play a snippet of it. There is a artist known as Afro Man. And he has come up with something pretty good. And he's got a song out there called Hunter Got High. And I want to play this for you because this looks just downright funny. So let me. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, all right. Folks, apparently, Mr. Afro Man uses certain words and phrases that might be offensive to your ear. So for the sake of, sensibilities, I will put a front porch warning on this thing. I have not heard this myself. We'll play about, 30 seconds, a minute of it, maybe to the chorus or whatever. But yeah, this Z Highness sent this to me. I have heard about this, but I have not seen it yet myself. We'll end it on this. So check this out.
Shout out to Bass Records. Hey, yo, Hunter. Roll up another one of them congressional blunts, brother. He was gonna get his laptop fixed, but Hunter got high. He wasn't gonna show all them dick pics, but Hunter got high. He should have let Hillary bleach his whole hard drive. Yeah, Hunter got high. Hunter got high. Hunter got high. He wasn't gonna mess with the hoes, but Hunter got high. He was gonna take them all out on the boat, but Hunter got high. He's the smartest man Joe ever knew in his life. Yeah, till Hunter got high. Hunter got high. Hunter got high. La, da, 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 da. He was gonna go visit his dad, but Hunter got high. He thought he had a secret stash, but Hunter got high. The White House got shut down. We all know why. Yeah, Hunter got high. Hunter got high. Hunter got high.
Oh my God, that's great. Z Highness, thank you so much. That is absolutely hysterical. Oh my word. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. I'll tell you what, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the night. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being back here again for Chatting on the Porch. We will be back tomorrow evening. Remember, please spread the word. And 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Dr. Robin McCutcheon, one of our favorites on the Electronic Front Porch, is going to make an appearance again. We're going to talk all things economics and politics and campus. Okay. Well, Christian says I got to play. All right, let me go. I'll find the thing. I'll find it. The Fannie Willis song. Okay, I'll check it out, dude. But yeah, come back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll have the link up sometime this evening. So please spread the word around. 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. So yeah, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. We're going to have a good old-fashioned conversation with Dr. McCutcheon. In the meanwhile, thank you guys for being here. I absolutely love you all. I really do. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Continue to spread the word about the channel. Tell your friends. If they're not subscribed, tell them to subscribe. Hit the thumbs up on the way out the door. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, in the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, it is faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. You guys have a great night. And we'll